Hi guys, so we are out in Oakland today, beautiful Oakland, at their gorgeous new Arts and Heritage Center. Actually, I guess it's not so new now, but they always have something new going on here and exciting updates and some beautiful, I think, pieces of heritage and art. And I think Gabby's going to give us a tour today.
Yeah, hi, my name is Gabby McGee and I'm the program specialist here at the center. So welcome in. Healthy West Orange is trying to make West Orange, super healthy, and so we do a lot of stuff like yoga and 5Ks and stuff. We actually do a 5K with them, but this is part of their initiative. It's an herb garden. There's also some vegetables, but we've got Wesley right here. He's our little mascot. But anybody that can come into the center and borrow some scissors, and they can trim some herbs to take home with them to cook with.
I think it's such a great example that you don't need a ton of space. You don't need a whole farm to have a little bit of a vegetable garden, a little herb garden. You can just use whatever space you have. Because this used to be, a little fountain or a reflecting pool.
Yes.
What was the history of it?
Yeah, so it was part of Grace Mather-Smith's park, and you can see the columns over here, and this is where the center stood. This was a reflecting pool. So now we've turned it into an herb garden for anyone to come and enjoy.
I love it. Still has a community draw to it, and the history is still here. And I love learning about that and seeing that people can get a good example of how to just add a little fresh fruits and vegetables to their day, and actually also continue to produce something. It feels so good to see things grow. You come out in the morning and see something that's coming out of the earth.
We're standing here in the center right now, and it's been around since 2020. And we've got some lovely art and heritage exhibits. Right now we have an exhibit on the origins of Oakland, which was established in 1887. So I'll take everyone around. We'll start over here. So if you look over here, Oakland really owes its history to two men. Peter Devens over here, forgive me if I don't know how to pronounce his name, I've only read it in books, but he was a Russian nobleman, and he made his way here and got his start in sawmills and lumber, and he made his fortune, and he was just obsessed with railroads. He said, I want to build a railroad that goes all the way to the Gulf. And so he started making his way here, and then this man, James Gamble Spear, who is the largest landowner in Orange County, I believe, maybe just West Orange County, but in the area, he had a whole lot of land. He decided he wanted to put Oakland on the map. And so he contacted Peter and he said, hey, I'm going to give you 200 acres. I'm just going to give it to you. But I want to make Oakland the headquarters for the railroad. And Devin said, let's do it. And they started a partnership. And then the Orange Belt Railroad got its start. This here is the depot that was in Oakland.
So nice to have this rail right here, just like this now.
What a crazy idea.
Oh, wow. Sorry. Transportation joke amongst the Orange County people that are wrestling for a connection out here. Oh my gosh, that is awesome to see that old map, though. I love an old map.
Yeah. So Orange Belt Railway made it started here, but then it eventually made its way all the way to St. Petersburg. And funny story, Devens was Russian, and St. Petersburg, to see the connection, he actually wanted to name Oakland, because it wasn't a town yet, he wanted to name it St. Petersburg. And the town rose up and they were like, look at all these oak trees. We gotta name it Oakland. And they overruled him and they named it Oakland, which we love it. We love our oaks. But Devens finally went at the end of the railroad, right where it stopped at the Gulf, he got his name, St. Petersburg. And so there's actually, I think, a park named after him over there. You can learn a lot more about it there.
That's really cool. Can you imagine what's like settling here in the way that we have like summer 9 months of the year after living in Russia and having winter 9 months of the year, and how it must have felt like heaven, the water and the trees and I can't imagine
It is interesting though, because he was a nobleman, so he had servants and he had mansions, he had a lot, and then when he came here, he had a very small log cabin in what was undeveloped wilderness at this point. So
that's awesome.
It was a transition, but he definitely made his fortune, and we're glad that he came here and chose this spot. Here's some of the old buildings if you zoom in on So this was it was the Orange Belt Investment Company that built the houses and the headquarters for the Orange Belt Railway.
Are the houses still here? Or
So this one is not standing anymore. That one I believe is.
Okay.
I can take you over it. We've got some of the paintings.
I was
are
gonna say.
yeah. So the paintings, we'll have the artists talk a little bit more about the paintings, but these are buildings that still stand today, and the paintings were painted on site by the artists.
That's awesome.
So this was one of the original Orange Belt. So this was built in around 1887. So these are some more of the early pioneers of Orange County. We've got Charles Tilden, Sadler. These are some big names, and they made their start here in Oakland and lived here. And because of all that, and because of the railway being here, Oakland just started booming. And it was going to be Orlando, what Orlando is today. It really was. There was an opera house. There was a big drugstore. This whole right here, this square was, there was all sorts of high society and everything. And over here you can see a little bit more of that. This is the oldest building in West Orange County. It's so if you zoom in right here, this is an old photo of it, but it's just down the street. So if you come to the center, you can walk. It takes about 2 minutes to walk down to Oakland Avenue, which is Florida's scenic highway, I think. And you can see it, but it's now a coffee shop.
That's awesome.
Prairie House.
How many people lived in Oakland in its first year of incorporation in 1887? Right?
So I want to say it was around 1,800 people. And
Quite a
then,
bit.
yeah. So it became really a big town, and a lot of it was the farmers and the citrus workers, because this was all citrus, and all they grew cabbages and all sorts. It was like a lot of farmland, and then the railroad workers building the railroad, because this was the headquarters.
And was Lake Apopka swimmable at that time?
Oh my gosh,
Yeah,
yes.
so I was going to say, I'll take you over.
Yes.
We'll talk about Apopka a little bit later. I've got a little case that kind of features Apopka, but Lake Apopka was beautiful. It was trophy size fishing. I mean, people came from all around. It was basically the first Central Florida tourist attraction.
Yes.
Wow.
My mom came on vacation here from West Virginia when she was little.
Oh, that's awesome.
To Lake Apopka.
Yeah, you could, if you walk about 5 minutes that way, you'll hit our newly refurbished pier. It's a Jake Foss pier, and it's beautiful. It's a great view. Watch the sunset. It's really nice.
Great. Thank you.
So over here, we've got some industry. We've got the sawmill. There was a packing house for citrus. So the South Lake Apopka Citrus Growers, this is the packing house, and it does still stand today.
Was it right over the butterfly garden and trail?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I think our artist may have painted it, so they can maybe talk a little more about that. We don't have the art yet, but maybe we will. And here really, so this is my favorite photo. It's of the drugstore, and you can sort of see this was Town Square right here. And if you look, see right there, that is what's now our historic town hall.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, so where we're standing right here is this spot right here, and if you look at the railroad tracks,
That's a trail.
that's West Orange Trail. Yeah, it was believe it was called Rails to Trails.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
And they made all the rails into running trails and biking trails for everyone, and it's glorious. It's such a lovely run. It's about 22 miles right now, and I think they're expanding to 36 miles.
Yeah.
And it's part of the coast to coast connector, where you could actually, if you wanted to, run from here to Tampa.
Most likely ride.
If you wanted to, you could. I will not be.
they'll be
I will be driving.
Yes.
I have a friend that's on the
Yeah, the
101.
rails.
But yeah, this used to be a park, and there's a little fountain right here. This is also a view of Tubb Street, which is just outside. And then this is also, you can see this little building right here was the Opera House. It was sort of where high society would have their, they would have operas and masquerade balls and all sorts of fun stuff. And over here.
So where was the drugstore in relation to, like, if it was still here, would it have been?
Yeah, so
Right
this
there.
view is like you're looking right there.
Okay.
And then it would have been just along this way. Again, this is citrus, right? So this is where everyone made their fortune. This was where all of the settlers really got their money. And unfortunately, there was the big freeze in 1894. And so everyone had these amazing, crazy, like acres and acres of orange groves.
This is the coolest picture.
I know, it's so sad, but it is really, really cool. So in 1894, there was a freeze, and basically it wiped out that season's crop, and all the oranges fell to the ground, and that's, you can see here. But that wasn't really what was the death knell that wasn't why they called it the big freeze. Like if it was just the one crop, they would have been okay, like the trees were fine. But then right after that, a few months later, there was a second freeze.
Yeah.
And the problem was that with the warming temperatures, the sap actually in the trees expanded. And then when it froze, they burst. All the sap burst. And they said you could hear it. It sounded like gunshots because the trees were just exploding from the sap. So that was just, I mean, all the trees had to be regrown. Everybody kind of they either left or they went into some other sorts of farming just to survive. So we went from about 1,800 people to 200 people in Oakland within a year or so.
Just total devastation.
Yep, but luckily everybody still loved Oakland, and those 200 people really wanted to keep Oakland the charming place it is to live. And so we have here the Mathersmiths. They came in 1910. They were from Chicago, and they were socialites, right? So they had all the high society, and then they came to this small town, and it was very sedate. And people were like, who are these people? They're crazy. And so, Grace is the socialite. You can see her here. She's got her beautiful little citrus dress on.
Yeah, it reminds me of the old pictures of Cypress Gardens, the old, with the same thing, where they had their big flowy.
Oh yeah, no, I love that. It feels like Gone with the Wind. So she actually, she goes to the Oakland Sewing Club, and she starts teaching them the turkey trot, which was a new thing, and everyone was like,
very controversial dance.
what are you doing? I mean, this was not, they were not ready, Oakland was not ready for Grace Mathersmith. They were not ready. She actually had she had the first car in Oakland, and she's driving it down the road, and she's driving over, they've set the speed limit, she's driving over the speed limit, she's going too fast. She gets pulled over, and she goes, what's the fee? What's the fine? And she gives him double the fine, and she says, I'll be speeding on my way back.
They call that a bribe these days. Don't do that.
So yeah, she's my favorite. And this is,
that's awesome.
She established Grace Park, which is, you can see these columns right here. And again, that's where we're standing right now.
Oh, yeah.
And I'll show you guys when we get outside. I'll walk us around a little bit, but 4 of the columns are still standing today, and they're just outside.
That's where that is.
So that's been around since 1912, I believe.
That's great.
The Oakland Hotel, you can see the picture right here, was sort of, because of all the people wanting to fish here, they needed a place to stay, so they built the Oakland Hotel, and it opened in 1910, so around the time of the Mathersmiths. Here we have the register books of people signing in, and then this is really, really cool. When the hotel was torn down in around 1950, they did an archaeological, all this stuff was buried, and they did an archaeological dig recently, I believe it was Valencia College, and they found about 2,000 artifacts.
Oh my gosh.
Just, because there wasn't like municipal trash yet, I would say, so they were just,
Buried in the
we've got buried in the backyard stuff, and we love it. But I have a fun fact. So they studied the contents of a lot of the condiment jars and makeup and stuff like that to sort of see what people liked to do back then, what people used for their makeup and stuff. But they found that the most used condiment was mayonnaise.
And
so that's your fun fact.
Air conditioning. So that might have been a little dicey sometimes.
I believe it's still the most used condiment.
Oh yeah.
We actually have a call to artists right now for our summer exhibition. So this is called Land, Water, and Air, and it's free to submit. We'd love to see all the submissions we can get, and that'll be on June 17th will be the opening date for that exhibit. We're also going to talk about the streets of Oakland. So the streets of Oakland, when they platted the town, it was just 1st Street, 2nd Street, 3rd Street, and they decided to name them after some historic figures and families and pioneers of Orange County and Oakland. And so in our summer exhibit, June 17th, you can learn a little bit more about those historic figures. And you can learn more on our Facebook page. It's Healthy West Orange Arts and Heritage Center. It's a mouthful, but hopefully you can find it. And we also have our Town of Oakland website as well.
What's the website URL?
It's Oakland, Florida, oaklandfl.gov. This is all of the mayors of Oakland up until '83. And so you might recognize a few of the names that I talked about earlier. So we've got Peter Demons, that Russian nobleman who started the railroad that came through and is now the West Orange Trail. We've got Mather Smiths, Petrus, Brock. These are all some of those historic figures that were really the pioneers. My favorite right here is Dewey Vick, and that's actually Oakland's first female mayor in 1941. So that was pretty early to have a mayor that was a female. She was really awesome. She used to own a flower shop, and she was really, really cool. And her house is just down the street. It's now Prairie House Coffee, but it's the oldest building in West Orange County. I used to work in downtown Orlando, and I loved it, but it's so nice to have this peaceful, it's just like, you come here and you just feel like your blood pressure lowering. Yes. It's so lovely.
So true.
Yeah, so here, this is actually, there's a video, there's some pictures here. I don't know if this is a good place to look, but that's our historic African-American cemetery. And it was really interesting because it sort of fell into disrepair, and people didn't know that it was here because it was overgrown, and it didn't feel like a cemetery as you think of one where the grass is really freshly mown and everything is in orderly lines. The graves are kind of hidden and in like little peaceful spots under a tree, and so we wanted to restore it, and so we got a historic preservation grant, I think from the National Trust, and the Florida Arts too. And we're seeking more grants to restore this historic cemetery. This is a replica of one of the grave markers, and it's actually, see the seashells. So this was sort of a representation to enslaved persons of returning to Africa. Like the sea brought them here, and the sea would return them to Africa when they died. So there's a lot of really unique and beautiful grave sites that you can see. This is the only known photo we have of an interred resident at the cemetery. This was loaned by Betty Wade, and this was she's one of the descendants, and she kind of was pioneering this, saving the cemetery, and you can read a lot more about her, but she made it happen, and she's the one.
Like with the technology the way it is now, right? And they can do GIS, and they understand. They can look without having to disrupt. And really get a better understanding.
This video right here, actually.
Yeah, I mean,
so
there's
this
really
is
no excuse for not figuring out where these are, giving them the space they need to be preserved and commemorated.
Yeah, we're getting more grants, and we're seeking more grants. But this is my favorite that we've done. So it's a 3D landscape animation that they made where they found a lot of the grave sites, and it's this 3D view of the site and where they're located. There's a lot more, but this is sort of the beginning of that. And it's really great because one of the things that's protecting the graves right now is that having growth and trees and sorts of vines covering them up and keeping them safe. And if we were to cut all that back and make it into like a tourist viewing area, it wouldn't protect the graves as well as they've been protected. So this is a really great way for us to educate about these sites and for people to see them without disturbing them. So these are some really cool artifacts that we have that the town of Oakland has just kept since 1880. We were talking about the railroad. So the railroad's no longer here, but when they were building the West Orange Trail, and we've got Spear Park just down the way, they found a lot of the tie plates and spikes. So we have some of those here. And then we also have the town seal, which was used for municipal documents. They would seal it, and it was used for 120 years. They used it, and then we wanted to preserve it, and so we got a new one that's like, I'm sure it's a lot easier to use now, right? So yeah, I'm so glad we have that here. And finally, we have the Oakland Nature Preserve, which is just a skip down the trail, and we love working with them. They're wonderful. They do kayak tours, and you can walk along the water. It's really beautiful, and they volunteer events on Saturdays, I believe, in yoga on the water. So yeah, that's Oakland for you, and I'll turn it over to our two artists who can talk a little bit about their art and their process.
Hi, my name's Dave Minichiello, and I'm one of the artists of many here that help participate in this exhibit. We set these up. This is an older version of my outdoor paint setup, but most of the paintings you see here, well, every one of them, I believe, are plein air paintings, which means they were done probably 90% outdoors on location. So one of the things that we love about painting here in Oakland and around this area is the beautiful ambiance. It's so quiet here. As a plein air painter in Florida, the amount of shade here is a big factor. And all these beautiful oak trees drew us to this area, but also the character and the history of this little town has really drawn us there.
I love looking at the dappled light.
Yeah, isn't that nice? And we love that. Yeah, thank you. And that's the kind of thing on each piece as you look at each of the buildings that we've painted. And Joe Warren and I paint a lot together. We've been painting for like 24 years together. So, but anyway, that's the thing. So capturing, not being in our studios, but being out in the environment, it's amazing how many colors and, like you were mentioning, the lighting that draw. Those are the kind of things that draw you to the buildings and the places and the locations of what we paint. So we've really loved painting around the area for that reason. So thank you. So this is just sort of in progress, but just sort of show you.
It's amazing that it can capture the feeling, though.
Yeah,
and, a town like Oakland has a feeling that comes with it, and I think it's hard to capture in photographs. Yeah. But the painting does something different than a photograph, and it has a feeling that goes with it.
Yeah. Well, thank you. That's the thing. Yeah, we and I've always done watercolor sketchbooks and things like that on trips for that reason. You could take a photo and it comes back. You come back and it's so dark, or the shadows aren't rich. And when you're out there painting it, you really see the colors and the light and that. So, Joe, do you want to talk a little bit about your setup at all too?
Sure. My name is Joe Warren, and Dave and I have been painting together, as he said, for 24 years. We started painting together at Walt Disney Imagineering. Now we're both retired now, and where else to paint but this beautiful location of Oakland? And yes, the dapple light is intriguing and wonderful. A little dapple light will do you. And this particular paint kit is an EZL, and of course this is ironically right over there, this particular vista, the town hall and the water fountain, or the water tower beyond. I think that another quality of our experience painting together is the camaraderie, and that is it makes it much more enjoyable when you have fellow artists to paint with, and it's fun to paint the same thing, and we come up with different versions of the same vista, as you've seen in the gallery beyond.
What do you think the most challenging part of being sort of out in that environment and trying to capture it is?
Well, I'd say one of the big items, what makes this area so nice, are the public restrooms, right?
Not always easy to get if you're set up at a nice place, right? That's a really good point.
And I think one of the things we've enjoyed a lot here in the area is the pride people have in the historical buildings. And every time we're painting, somebody comes out and tells us a little story about what we're painting. And did you know that this building was in there? So it's been great. And then there's also a book out that Gabby had suggested too that has a lot of the history written down, and it was from the Historical Society.
Recommendations.
And so, but it's been great because a lot of the painting, we've learned a lot more about a lot of the buildings we've painted and the areas that we've painted. So
there's something that feels really good too when you start seeing somebody put love back into an old building that you think, oh, are they going to tear that down, or is someone going to take it and restore it?
So this is a great book on. It's this whole area. It's really Oakland, Winter Garden, and the whole area. And they have it. I got a copy of it at the Winter Garden Art and Heritage Center. I think it's called. But what's great about this is you can see that this gentleman painted or sketched every building, and I wanted to mention his name, Rod Reeves, and he actually locates them on a map, but also did sketches of them, and then it tells a little brief history. So if you're really interested in So for us, this was really
What a great collection.
Yeah, no, it's great, and it told us a lot more about what we're painting. So and made us find other locations that we will go out and paint still. So
I don't know if they still do it, but in Winter Garden, I know the fourth graders in the schools in the area come out and do a scavenger hunt of they get the old picture of the way it looks.
Oh wow!
And then they have to figure out what it looks like now and match it.
That's fun.
Yeah,
That's fun.
it's really
that's great.
a cool exercise in showing them what 100 years can do to a town and a streetscape.
Right.
Yeah, I think it's exciting, like the photos Gabby was going through, to see the town hall, the way it was at that point is really exciting. I love it, and it's really, again, what drew us to this area to paint is the history and, of course, the beautiful shade trees as well. So being in Florida as a painter, you want to be in shade.
I'm curious too, where can people go to find more information about your paintings, or if they wanted to buy a painting, or they
Well, it just so happens that we have websites.
The Modern Gallery. I love that. I love that.
Right. Dave,
My website, if you just go to Dave Minichiello, it's MINICHIELLO.com is my website.
and mine's Warren Paintings.
So if I'm looking back here then, if you'll point out.
Well, you can see a lot of these, I think, Joe had mentioned, we've been painting side by side for years, and do we have two? Yeah. So, an interesting thing about this. So Joe painted the old town hall and the boarding house together in here, and then I probably the same day. Oh, well, actually, it was similar to that, where I would just paint the old town hall, and you can see this was a little bit of an overcast day.
That's such a Florida day, right? That is just such the
and then I had a little bit brighter day with dappled light there on the old town hall that day. This is the new town hall, sorry. But that's what really drew me to that, was all that beautiful dappled light hitting that building and that old historical building. So you can see though, as we paint, we'll paint relatively side by side, but we may crop things differently.
I was going to say, that it's really neat to
something
have
else will.
the perspective. It's very cool because it's.
And it's fun. It's fun for us to look at each other's after and say, "Oh yeah, that's interesting."
Can you see what you're both doing at the same time, or is it? Well, I was going to say, you got to understand, Commissioner Wilson's a little attention deficit, so I feel like. Oh wait, I was doing mine. Right. Wait a minute, that's right. I got to stay focused. So
if he lets me come over and look at it. No, we do that all the time. In fact, if sometimes we're stuck on something, we'll both look at the painting and say, what would you do here? So.
Can we see the yellow house one too that you did? That one is really interesting.
What's kind of fun is that we gravitate to different proportions. I tend to like either 6 by 12 or 8 by 16 is I gravitate to that proportion. Dave he kind of likes the 9 by 12s.
Yeah, it's so interesting because you can see this one's got a car, this one doesn't. That one's got something on the roof, this one doesn't. It's kind of interesting to see how you both saw it a little bit differently, different perspectives.
Yeah.
The eye of the beholder.
Right, yeah. So
I think this one is interesting in the same way as well, where Joe did a little more of a panorama, I did a little more of a crop, but then sometimes when we see each other, it's like I came back a week or two later and painted this because I love the tree in there, which I sort of hinted at here but didn't quite capture. So sometimes we'll go back and I'm like, I want a chance to paint that one at that view, so we'll go back and paint that.
That's really cool. Just kind of step back.
Yeah.
Both of the houses were built at the same time as part of the headquarters for the Orange Bell, so it's for the people working. But as you can see, if you look really closely, these two, they were built right across the street from each other. And they have the same kind of porch. It's almost like a Queen Anne style. But this one is the second story, and it's actually was built after because the man that worked there, he had asthma. And at the time, they said he should sleep above the dew. And so he said, all right, I'll build it and so that he could sleep upstairs above the dew.
Wow, that's so interesting.
Yeah, the air flows better. Yeah. And then if you look at this picture down here, this was the first family that lived there. Petrus was a upholsterer for rail car seats for the railroad. But this is his family, and there's a little horse. But if you notice, those same columns are right here. But then we've got the artist who
Up
talk
and
more about the
out.
art.
That's
and
great.
out of
Great to
the
have that
news.
backstory.
Yeah.
No, that's what we've loved about being here and being with Gabby and the team here is like we're learning more and more about the whole area.
Dave was on the first trip up to Montana, which was under their artist development program. So, he kind of cut his teeth on that. And I thought it was so cool being here in Florida.
It was really
Well, I
was
love that
really
it brought
amazing.
in so many brilliant, creative, talented people. It's why I believe, once again, District 1 is as special as it is because, there's talent from all over the world that
Oh
comes
yeah,
here.
definitely,
Right.
definitely. And we were fortunate. You learned so much. I mean, just like us painting together and how much we learn. But you go to a place like that, and there are so many amazing artists that do things you've never even seen before, and you all
Nice one,
learn
Chris.
from each other.
One of the things I think everyone can agree on now, hopefully, about what we learned in the COVID time and lockdown was you missed that type of hands-on instruction that we really needed in the arts.
Yeah.
And the arts in particular,
Yeah.
children's brains don't develop to their full
Yeah.
potential without
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
part of it.
Right.
So I love hearing
Definitely,
that you're still
definitely.
plugged in.
Well, we're so thankful to have places like this that we can, share our artwork and expose that to people and hopefully make
Inspire,
them
absolutely.
inspire, and they
Right.
can see what we've seen in this beautiful location, and hopefully it makes them want to be here. And
To me also, I think it's when you think about the feeling of a place, right? And how much
Yeah.
we love our home here and
yeah.
it captures, to me, this captures that feeling and having people who maybe don't live here be able to capture that. It's such a gift.
And
So,
experience
yeah.
it, and we just love it. And again, we're just thankful to be able to have places like this to
Yes.
show our work and share that. So
Amazing. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you.
thank you.
Yeah.